The starship Quiet Dawn drifted through the darkness between stars. It was old, older than most civilizations, and it had seen more worlds than anyone could count. The ship belonged to the Galactic Concord, a union of hundreds of alien species who had explored the universe for thousands of years. They had found life on millions of planets. They had seen wonders and horrors. They thought they had seen everything. They were wrong. Ambassador Tola stood at the viewing window, his silver skin reflecting the distant starlight. He was a Vellani, a tall and graceful species known for their calm nature and long lives. Tolas had spent 300 years exploring new worlds. He had made first contact with 12 different species. He had seen planets covered in crystal forests and moons made entirely of water. Nothing surprised him anymore. At least, that was what he believed until today. "Sir, we are receiving radio signals from the third planet," said Navigator Bora. She was young for a Vellani, barely a century old, and her voice carried a note of excitement. Finding radio signals meant finding intelligent life. It was rare, perhaps one in every 10,000 systems. Talas nodded slowly. "Begin standard observation. Record everything. We will study them before making contact." The Quiet Dawn moved closer to the small yellow star. The third planet came into view, a beautiful sphere of blue and green and white. Talas had seen many worlds like it. Water worlds were common enough. What made this one different became clear only when the sensors finished their scan. Mora's excitement turned to confusion. Then confusion turned to something close to fear. "Sir, I think the sensors are broken," she said quietly. "Explain." "The population readings cannot be correct. The atmospheric data makes no sense. I am running the scan again." She ran the scan 3 more times. The results did not change. Tolas walked to the sensor station and looked at the data himself. His calm expression did not change, but inside, his mind was racing. In 300 years, he had never seen anything like this. The planet held 8 billion intelligent beings. 8 billion. On a single world. The largest population the Concord had ever recorded on one planet was 2 billion, and that civilization had spread to 3 moons to support itself. These creatures had nowhere else to go, and yet there they were. 8 billion souls packed onto one small world. But that was not the strangest part. "The atmosphere shows high levels of industrial pollution," Bora said, her voice shaking slightly. "Carbon emissions, chemical waste, radiation traces. By our models, this biosphere should have collapsed 200 years ago. The planet should be dead. And yet it lives," Tolas murmured. "There is more, sir." Bora pulled up another set of data. "They have nuclear technology. They have had it for approximately 80 of their years." Tolas felt something cold move through him. Nuclear technology. The great filter. The test that almost every species failed. In all the history of the Galactic Concord, spanning 4,000 years and 12 million star systems, 47 species had discovered nuclear power. 47 species had built nuclear weapons. And 47 species had destroyed themselves with those weapons. The number was absolute. It was considered a universal law, as certain as gravity. Species that built nuclear weapons did not survive. They burned themselves to ash before they ever reached the stars. "You are saying they have had nuclear weapons for 80 years, Talas said slowly. "And they still exist?" "Yes, sir. But it gets worse." Bora's hands trembled as she worked the controls. They did not merely build the weapons. They used them, twice, on themselves. On their own cities. And they survived. And then they built more weapons. Thousands more. Tens of thousands. Tolas stared at the blue planet spinning peacefully in the void. "They are pointing the weapons at each other right now," Bora continued. Their entire civilization exists under the shadow of instant death. One wrong move, one mistake, and they all die. They have lived like this for 80 years. That is impossible, Tala said, but he knew the data did not lie. There is even more, sir. Look at their planet's history. The data showed him things that should not be real. The planet had suffered 5 mass extinction events. Giant rocks from space had struck it. Massive volcanic eruptions had poisoned the air. Ice ages had frozen the surface. Each time, most life had died. And each time, life had returned, stranger and stronger than before. The dominant species, these humans, had evolved after the 5th extinction. They came from a world that seemed determined to kill them. And they had not just survived. They had conquered. Their world has predators in every environment, Laura said. Creatures that hunt in water, on land, in the air. Extreme temperatures that shift from burning heat to freezing cold. The ground itself shakes and breaks apart. Mountains that breathe fire. Storms that destroy cities. And yet humans live everywhere. In deserts, in frozen wastelands, in thick jungles. They adapted to all of it. She showed him images captured from human broadcasts. Humans swimming in frozen water for fun. Humans climbing mountains so high that they could barely breathe. Humans running such great distances that most species would simply drop dead from exhaustion. Humans keeping deadly predators as pets, feeding them and playing with them like children. What are they? Laura whispered. Talas did not answer. He could not answer. In 300 years, he had never felt true fear. He felt it now. Not fear of violence or death, but fear of something he did not understand. Something that broke all the rules he had ever known. He turned to the communication station. Open a priority channel to the High Assembly, he ordered. Maximum encryption. This message is for the Council only. What should I tell them, sir? Talas looked once more at the blue planet, at the impossible world full of impossible creatures who had survived everything the universe had thrown at them. Creatures who had looked at their own destruction and simply refused to accept it. Tell them we have found something new, he said. Tell them we have found a species that survives. And tell them I do not know if that should give us hope or make us very, very afraid. The message flew across the stars at speeds beyond light. And across the galaxy, beings who had thought they understood the universe began to learn that they understood nothing at all. The humans were coming, and nothing would ever be the same. The High Assembly met on a station that orbited a dead world. The planet below had once been beautiful, covered in cities of glass and light, home to a species called the Primarchs. That was 10,000 years ago. Now the world was silent. Its cities were ruins, frozen in black glass. Its oceans were poison. Its air was death. The Primarchs had discovered nuclear weapons. 3 years later, they no longer existed. The Galactic Concord kept this place as a reminder. Every new species that joined them was brought here first. They were shown what happened when civilization failed. They were shown the shadows burned into walls, the only remains of beings who had been alive one moment and gone the next. Most visitors left this place changed forever. Today, the 12 ruling species of the Concord gathered in the great chamber that floated above this graveyard. They had come because of a message from the far edge of known space. They had come because of Earth. High Counselor Marin sat at the head of the table. She was a tokai, an insect-like species with 4 arms and wings that folded against her back. Her people were known for their perfect memory. They never forgot anything, which made them excellent record keepers. Today, Marin wished she could forget what she had just learned. Let me understand this correctly, she said, her mandibles clicking with each word. This species, these humans, developed nuclear weapons 80 of their years ago. They used these weapons on their own cities, killing hundreds of thousands of their own kind. And then, instead of destroying themselves completely, they simply built more weapons and kept living? Scholar Duri, a Vellani-like Ambassador Tallis, nodded her head. She was old even by Vellani standards, and she had spent her life studying other species. She had never found one like this. That is correct, High Counselor. After the first use of nuclear weapons, the humans did not stop. They built more, much more. At their peak, they had enough weapons to destroy their planet several times over. Multiple nations held these weapons. They pointed them at each other. And they waited. Waited for what? Asked another council member. For the other side to attack first. They created a concept they call mutually assured destruction. If one nation attacks, the other nation responds. Both are destroyed. Both know this. So neither attacks. They turned the weapons themselves into a shield. The chamber fell silent. The idea was so strange that many council members struggled to understand it. They used fear as a tool, Duri continued. They made death so certain, so total, but no one dared to cause it. They have lived under this shadow for 80 years. Every day, they wake up knowing that the world could end before sunset. And they simply continue. They go to work. They raise families. They build things and make art and argue about small matters, all while sitting on enough fire to burn their world to ashes. Counselor Ven, a large creature covered in blue scales, leaned forward. His species, the Dramani, were known for their physical strength and their direct way of speaking. "This is madness," he said. "No species can function this way. The psychological damage alone would destroy them within a generation. And yet they function," Duri replied. "They do more than function. They thrive. Look at their population growth, their technological advancement, their cultural output. By every measure, humanity has grown stronger in the nuclear age. Not weaker." She brought up more data, and the council watched in growing disbelief. "Their world is what we classify as a death world," Duri explained. "Extreme conditions, constant dangers, unstable environment. Species from death worlds are rare. Most do not develop intelligence because survival takes all their energy. Humans are the exception. They not only developed intelligence, they used it to conquer their planet. The images showed humans in every environment imaginable. Humans living in deserts where temperatures could kill in hours. Humans living on frozen ice where nothing grew. Humans living in thick forests full of poisonous creatures. Humans living on the sides of mountains that breathed fire. They adapt, Duri said. Not through evolution, which takes thousands of generations, but through will and cleverness. They change their environment to suit themselves. They build shelters, create tools, develop technologies. What they cannot change, they endure. What they cannot endure, they fight." She showed them something that made several council members look away. Humans at war. Not the clean, distant warfare of advanced species, but brutal, direct violence. Humans had fought each other constantly throughout their history. Wars over land, over resources, over ideas, over pride. They had developed weapons of every kind, from simple stones to complex machines. They had killed each other in numbers that defied belief. And yet, Duri said quietly, they also do this. New images appeared. Humans risking their lives to save strangers from disasters. Humans sending food and medicine to enemies they had fought just years before. Humans building hospitals and schools in places destroyed by war. Humans adopting children from the other side of their world. Humans sacrificing themselves so that others might live. "They are violent," Duri said. "More violent than any species we have ever encountered. But they are also kind. More kind than we thought possible. They hold both things inside them at once. They choose, moment by moment, which one to act on. High Counselor Mirren's wings pressed tight against her body. Among her people, this was a sign of deep distress. "You are saying they are not one thing or another," she said slowly. "You are saying they are both, always, and they simply choose. Yes, High Counselor. Every human, every day, makes a choice. They can help or harm. They can build or destroy. They can love or hate. They carry the capacity for all of it. And somehow, despite everything in their nature and their history, more of them choose good than choose evil. Not because they cannot do evil, but because they choose not to." The council sat in silence, looking at the data, trying to understand a species that should not exist below them. The dead world of Primarch 7 turned slowly in the darkness, a reminder of what nuclear weapons always meant, but somewhere far away. A blue planet full of impossible creatures kept spinning, kept living, kept choosing life over death for one more day. And the council had to decide what to do about it. The debate lasted 11 cycles. Some council members wanted to leave the humans alone, hoping they would destroy themselves like every other nuclear species. Others wanted to destroy them first, before they became a threat. In the end, the voice of reason won. They would make contact. They would study these strange creatures up close. They would try to understand. Senior diplomat Yuna was chosen to lead the mission. She was perfect for the job. She had spent 2 centuries meeting new species, and she had a gift for staying calm in difficult situations. She had talked to beings that could kill with a thought, and beings that could not understand the concept of peace. Nothing had ever broken her composure. She told herself that humans would be no different. The diplomatic ship Harmonious Reaching arrived in the human solar system after a journey of several months. Yuna had used that time to study everything the Concord knew about humans. She watched their broadcasts, read their books, studied their art. She learned about their wars and their heroes, their failures and their triumphs. By the time they arrived, she thought she understood them. She was wrong. "They have detected us," said Communications Officer Juan. He was young and eager, and this was his first contact mission. "I am picking up hundreds of signals. They are tracking us with every device they have." Yuna looked at the sensor display and felt a moment of surprise. The humans had no advanced detection technology. They should not have been able to find a Concord ship in the vastness of space. But they had. Using old radio telescopes and simple radar, they had spotted the Harmonious Reaching almost immediately. "They are very good at using limited tools," she murmured. "There is something else," Juan said, his voice uncertain. "They are redirecting weapons. Nuclear missiles. They are pointing them at us." Yuna nodded calmly. "Expected. They do not know our intentions. They are being careful." "Careful?" "They are threatening to destroy us. They are showing us that they can fight back. It is a display, not an attack. If they wanted to destroy us, they would not warn us first." Juan did not look convinced, but he said nothing. The first humans to meet them came up in a ship that made Yuna want to cry. It was so small, so fragile, held together by metal and hope and the simplest of fuels. It could barely reach its own moon. The journey to the Harmonious Reaching took everything it had. And yet, inside that tiny ship, 3 humans waited without fear. Their names were Taiho, Jisu, and Mireille. Taiho was the pilot, a quiet man with steady hands. Jisu was a scientist, her eyes bright with curiosity. And Mireille was the diplomat, chosen to speak for her entire species. Yuna met them in the main hall of the ship. She had prepared a careful speech, full of reassurances and peaceful intentions. She never got to give it. Myra stepped off the human ship and looked around at the alien vessel with open wonder. She was not afraid. She was not defensive. She looked at the Villani crew with the expression of a child seeing snow for the first time. Then she looked at Yuna, showed her teeth in what Yuna's training said was a smile, and spoke. "Thank you for coming," Myre said. "We have been waiting for you for a very long time." Yuna had made first contact with 19 species. All of them had asked the same first question. "Are you here to hurt us?" The humans did not ask this. They did not seem to consider it. "You are not afraid," Yuna said. Myre tilted her head. "Should we be? Most species are afraid when they meet aliens for the first time." The human diplomat laughed. It was a strange sound, sudden and bright. "We have been imagining this moment for centuries. We have written stories about it, made art about it, dreamed about it. Afraid? We are excited. We have so many questions. What is out there? Who else exists? How big is the universe? What wonders have we been missing?" Behind her, Jisoo was already examining the walls of the ship, muttering to herself about the technology. Taiho stood quietly, but his eyes moved constantly, taking in everything. Yuna felt something shift inside her. She had expected fear, hostility, or at least caution. She had not expected joy. "Your species has nuclear weapons pointed at each other right now," she said. "You have nearly destroyed yourselves many times. How can you be excited about meeting strangers from the stars?" Myre's smile faded slightly, replaced by something more serious. "We have nearly destroyed ourselves, yes. We have done terrible things to each other. But we are still here. Every day, we choose to keep trying. Every day, we hope tomorrow will be better. That is what humans do. We hope." She looked out the window at the distant blue dot that was Earth. "We have looked at the stars our whole lives and wondered if we were alone," she said softly. "We have asked ourselves if there was more to existence than our one small world. Now you are here. You are real. We are not alone. Do you understand what that means to us?" Yuna found that she did not understand. Her species had always known about other life in the universe. They had never experienced the loneliness of thinking they were the only ones. "What does it mean?" she asked. Myre turned back to her, and there were tears in her eyes. Yuna had learned that human tears could mean many things: sadness, joy, relief, hope. These tears seemed to hold all of them at once. "It means everything we have done matters," Myre said. "All our struggles, all our pain, all our choices to keep living when dying would have been easier. It was not for nothing. We are part of something bigger. We have always been part of something bigger. We just did not know it until now." She reached out her hand. Yuna had read about this gesture. It was called a handshake. It was a sign of peace and greeting. Yuna took the human's hand. It was warm and soft and impossibly strong. "Welcome to the Galactic Concord," Yuna said. "Thank you," Myre replied. "Now, please, tell us everything." And standing in that ship, holding hands with a creature from a death world who had every reason to fear but chose to hope instead, Yuna began to understand why the universe had gone quiet when humanity was discovered. They were not afraid of the humans. They were in awe of them. The Concord invited humanity to send a delegation to Primarch Station. It was tradition. Every new species was brought to see the dead world, to understand what happened when beings chose destruction over peace. The council expected the humans to be humbled. They expected fear and promises to do better. The humans sent 3 representatives. Ambassador Suho was their leader, a man in his 50s with gray hair and eyes that seemed to see through everything. With him came Dr. Yoonji, a physicist who had spent her life studying energy and matter, and Captain Dongwoo, a military officer whose presence made several council members very nervous. High Councilor Marin met them personally. She led them down to the surface of Primarch 7. to walk among the ruins of a civilization that had burned itself to nothing. The humans were silent as they walked. They looked at the twisted metal that had once been great towers. They studied the shadows burned into walls, the outlines of beings who had been alive one moment and then simply gone. They saw the empty streets, the poisoned rivers, the sky that was still dark with ash 10,000 years later. Ambassador Suho knelt beside one of the shadows. It was small. A child, perhaps. How long did it take? He asked quietly. 3 years from the first nuclear weapon to total extinction, Murren replied. They were a brilliant species, artistic, philosophical. They had solved problems that other species never could. But when they discovered nuclear fire, they could not resist using it. First on their enemies, then on each other. In the end, there were no sides left. Only ashes. And this has happened 47 times, Suho said. It was not a question. Yes, every species that has discovered nuclear weapons has destroyed itself with them. It is a universal law. Nuclear fire is the great filter. Those who build it do not survive. Suho stood slowly. His face showed nothing, but his eyes were heavy with something Maren could not read. Except us, he said. Except you. And we do not understand how. Dr. Yunji had been examining the ruins with the careful attention of a scientist. She looked up now, her expression thoughtful. You think we survived because we were better than them, she said. Wiser, more peaceful. You think we found some secret to avoiding destruction. We hope so, Maren admitted. We did not. The words hung in the cold air. Captain Dongwu laughed, a short, harsh sound that echoed off the dead buildings. You want to know how we survived? He said. You want to know our great secret? I will tell you. We were lucky. That is all. Luck and stubbornness. He walked toward the center of the ruined city, and the others followed. We came closer to destroying ourselves than you can imagine, Dongwu continued. There were moments when the missiles were ready to fly. Moments when one mistake, one misunderstanding, one officer having a bad day could have ended everything. Do you know how many times we almost died? More times than we even know. Some we only learned about decades later. He turned to face Maren, and his eyes were hard. We did not overcome our violent nature. We did not find peace in our hearts. We looked at the weapons pointed at us and the weapons we pointed at others. And we said, if you shoot, we all die. And then we just waited. Day after day. Year after year. Waiting for someone to blink. Waiting for the end that never came. That is not wisdom, Maren said, her wings trembling. That is insanity. Yes, Ambassador Suho agreed quietly. It is, but we are still here. And the Primarchs, with all their wisdom and art and philosophy, are not. He gestured at the ruins around them. You preserved this place to teach species about the danger of nuclear weapons. You want new species to see what happens when they choose violence. But you have it backward. This is not a lesson about what happens when species choose destruction. This is what happens when species cannot live with destruction. The Primarchs saw what their weapons could do, and they broke. They could not handle the fear. They could not function under the shadow. So they used the weapons, maybe just to end the waiting. Maybe just to make the fear stop. Dr. Yunji nodded slowly. Humans are different. We do not break under fear. We have lived our entire history with fear. Fear of predators. Fear of the dark. Fear of each other. Fear is normal to us. We wake up afraid and go to sleep afraid and do everything in between while afraid. Nuclear weapons just added one more fear to a list that was already very long. You are saying you survived because you are used to being afraid? Maren asked. We survived because we refused to let fear stop us, Captain Dongwu said. We feel it. We acknowledge it. And then we keep going anyway. We build cities in places that will flood. We live near mountains that will explode. We cross oceans that can kill us. We explore caves that can trap us. We climb ice that can break under us. We do all of this knowing the risks, feeling the fear, and choosing to act anyway. He looked down at the shadow of the Primog child. Your 47 species were not destroyed by nuclear weapons. They were destroyed by despair. They saw what they had created, and they lost hope. They stopped believing that survival was possible. So they fulfilled their own prophecy. And humans? Marin asked. What do humans believe? Ambassador Suho smiled, but it was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had seen too much and kept going anyway. We believe that tomorrow might be better, he said. Not that it will be. Not that we deserve it. Just that it might be. And that small, stupid hope is enough to get us through one more day. Then one more. Then one more after that. He looked up at the dark sky of the dead world. For 80 years, we have woken up every morning and chosen not to end the world. We have made that choice billions of times. Some days it was hard. Some days we came close to failing. But we kept choosing, over and over. Not because we are wise. Not because we are good. Because we are stubborn. Because giving up feels worse than struggling. Because as long as there is tomorrow, there is a chance. Marin stood very still for a long moment. Then her wings slowly relaxed. I think, she said quietly, that I have greatly underestimated your species. Most do, Captain Dongwu replied. Usually, they only make that mistake once. It was not a threat. But it was not a threat either. And standing in the ruins of a world that had surrendered to despair. The council representative began to understand that humans were something the universe had never seen before. Not a species that avoided destruction. A species that stared destruction in the face. Every single day, and simply refused to die. News traveled faster than light across the galactic concord. Within days, every species in every system had heard about the humans. The story spread like fire through dry grass. A species that had survived nuclear weapons. A species from a death world. A species that lived with fear and turned it into strength. At first, many did not believe. It was impossible, they said. The data must be wrong. No species could survive what the humans had survived. No species could function the way humans functioned. But the data was correct. And more data kept coming. Scholar Dory spent months preparing a report for the full assembly. When she finally presented it, she spoke to a chamber so packed that beings stood along the walls and floated in the observation galleries above. I have studied thousands of species, Dory began. I have seen many wonders, but I have never seen anything like humanity. She brought up images and data as she spoke, and the assembly watched in growing amazement. Consider their biology first. They are not strong by galactic standards. They have no natural weapons, no armor, no venom, no special senses. By every measure, they should have died out millions of years ago on their hostile planet. But they did not. They compensated for their weaknesses with their minds. They made tools. They made weapons. They made plans. What they could not overcome through strength, they overcame through cleverness. Images showed early humans hunting creatures many times their size, working together, using traps and fire and patience. They are persistent predators, Dury continued. Their hunting strategy is unique in the galaxy. They do not run faster than their prey. They do not fly or swim or climb better. Instead, they simply follow. They walk after their target for hours, for days if necessary, never stopping, never resting enough. Their bodies can cool themselves in ways most mammals cannot. Their legs can carry them across distances that would kill other species. And eventually, their prey simply collapses from exhaustion. The humans walk up to it and finish the job. The assembly murmured. The idea was disturbing. A species that simply never stopped coming. This persistence defines everything about them, Dury said. They do not give up. They cannot give up. It is not in their nature. When faced with obstacles, they find ways around them. When those ways fail, they find other ways. They beat their heads against problems until the problems break or they do. And usually, they outlast the problems. She showed them human history. Wars that lasted decades, fought by generation after generation. Projects that took centuries to complete. Ideas that survived being suppressed and persecuted for thousands of years. They have a saying, Dury said. If at first you do not succeed, try again. It sounds simple, but I have never seen another species that truly lives by this principle the way humans do. She paused, letting the assembly absorb this. Now consider their psychology. Humans experience emotions more intensely than most species. They feel joy and pain, love and hate, hope and despair, all at extreme levels. This should destroy them. This intensity, combined with their nuclear weapons and their violent history, should have ended their civilization long ago. But it did not, said High Counselor Marin. No, because humans also have an extraordinary capacity for something we do not have a proper word for. The closest translation is spite. It is the refusal to surrender, simply because someone or something expects you to surrender. Humans will endure tremendous suffering just to prove that they can. They will survive out of sheer stubbornness, out of a desire to show the universe that it cannot defeat them. Dury showed them examples. Humans who had survived impossible situations. Humans who had been told they would die and lived for decades longer. Humans who had been defeated again and again and kept coming back. Humans who smiled at death and said, "Not today." They are not exceptional because they do not fall, Dury said. Every species falls. Humans are exceptional because they get back up. Every time. No matter how many times they fall, no matter how badly they are hurt, they stand up again. This is built into their culture, their stories, their very identity. The human hero is not someone who never fails. The human hero is someone who fails and fails and fails and still keeps trying. The assembly sat in stunned silence. But perhaps most remarkable of all, Dury continued, is what they do with their contradictions. Humans are capable of great evil. Their history proves this beyond any doubt. But they are equally capable of great good. They can hate and love with equal passion. They can destroy and create with equal skill. And somehow, they have built a civilization that, on balance, tilts toward the good. She showed them human art, human music, human stories. She showed them humans caring for their sick and elderly. She showed them humans adopting children from strangers. She showed them humans risking their lives to save people they had never met. They know what they are, Dury said quietly. They know their capacity for darkness. They do not pretend otherwise, but they choose to fight it. Every day, in ways large and small, billions of humans choose to be kind instead of cruel. Choose to help instead of harm. Choose to build instead of destroy. Not because they cannot do otherwise, but because they want to be better than their worst impulses. She turned to face the full assembly. We achieve peace because we were built for it. Our species evolved toward cooperation. Our biology made violence difficult and peace natural. We did not have to struggle to be peaceful. It was easy for us. Her voice dropped to almost a whisper. For humans, it is not easy. Nothing is easy for them. They fight for everything. They fight their environment, their predators, their diseases, their own nature. And they fight to be good. Every single day, they wake up and choose to be better than evolution made them. They look at the darkness inside themselves and say no. Not because they cannot embrace it, but because they refused to. Dory looked around at the gathered species of the Concord. That is why the galaxy should go silent for them. Not in fear, in reverence. Because they are showing us something we never knew was possible. They are showing us that goodness is a choice. That peace can be fought for and won. That hope is not weakness, but the greatest strength of all. High Counselor Marin rose from her seat. "What do you recommend we do?" she asked. Dory smiled, something rare for a Volani. "I recommend we learn from them," she said. "We have spent 4,000 years teaching new species our ways. Perhaps it is time for us to become students again." The assembly voted unanimously. Humanity was welcomed into the Galactic Concord, not as newcomers to be guided, but as equals to be respected. And across 12 million star systems, beings of 1,000 species looked up at the stars with new eyes. They had thought they understood the universe. They had thought they knew what was possible. But in a small corner of the galaxy, a species of stubborn, terrified, impossible creatures had shown them that the universe was bigger and stranger and more wonderful than they had ever imagined. The humans were just beginning their journey among the stars. The galaxy held its breath in wonder, and the silence was the most respectful sound it had ever made.